So welcome to developing Built for BlackBerry applications with Adobe AIR. My name is Julian Dolce. I work at QNX/BlackBerry, and I'm the lead developer on the AIR SDK from an API perspective, anyways. Yeah, so what I want to talk to you a little bit today about is trying to, look at ways that you can get your application successfully approved with the Built for BlackBerry program easily. So I want to talk about some of the things that you can take advantage of in AIR, and then I'm going to show a few things that we've done to make it a lot easier for you to do that. First, if we can just go to the phone for a second. I'm going to show a sample application that's written in AIR that has been approved for Built for BlackBerry, and some of the stuff that they've done that allows them to get that status. So this is a stocks application. Can't exactly remember. It's just called stocks, actually. So this is all written in AIR, and you see we've got a list here. You can long press on the list to bring up the context menu. You can see the share via BBM. You could also delete this from your favorites if you wanted to. If you go into it, you can see here you can get gestures and for peak by just dragging the back button, and it's kind of using the same sort of navigation that the UI guidelines kind of provide for you. And then you have this tab navigation that you can kind of run through all the various sections of the application. So those are just some of the things that make this a really, really good application. It performs fairly well, and it's got all these features and UI features that users are going to expect from your applications based on using other applications on the device. So if we can just go back to the slides really quick. So the first kind of section is user experience. And I kind of want to just walk through the checklist of things that make it so that you will be approved for Built for BlackBerry. And this is really just taking it right off the developer checklist that's on the website, but we'll kind of talk about these things in an AIR context. So one of the more important ones is build for the form factor. So on the screen here, you see there's 3 different form factors and 2 different devices. So you've got the Q10, which is 720 by 720, and it's got a 330 DPI. And then you've got a landscape and a portrait version of the Z10, and it's got a DPI of 356. So you can see that, depending on what device you're running on and the DPI and the resolution, your application is going to lay out and look a little bit different. So things like fonts and paddings and margins and image sizes, all that kind of stuff is factored in. So there are, a few things that you can do that make it really easy with little code change. You can target all the different form factors, and any future form factor that comes out, you really shouldn't have to spend a whole lot of time, writing new code to support a new phone or new device. So the BlackBerry 10 controls that we have in AIR in the SDK will adapt automatically. So whether you run it on the Q10 or the Z10, you create a button and just put it on the stage. It'll get sized appropriately for you, and the text size will be sized appropriately depending on the DPI of the device. So we've done a lot of things that make it really, really easy for you to kind of, bring your device, bring your application and put them on the different devices. So use stage dimensions instead of hard-coded values. Query stage.width, stage.height. Don't put 720 by 720 when you're kind of laying things out or giving things a size. And we have a container class and 3 different layouts inside of the SDK that will allow you to kind of, have your content reflow based on its dimensions. And if you can use these, you can get away with not using absolute values. So if you're constantly setting hard-coded X and Y values, then you're going to probably have to redo that for all the different devices, and that gets to be a lot of work. And then we have some CSS support in the SDK, and the controls have some embedded CSS support. So it allows you to configure things. If you do need to configure things per device or per form factor, you can do that fairly easily and load the different CSS based on the device that you're running on. There's a CSS sample up on GitHub that you can look at. I'm not going to go too deep into that. I've talked a lot about it before. My session from last year is up online from this, and I talked a ton about that, so I'm not going to. You can go back and look at it. Application navigation. So one navigation model is having tabs at the bottom, like we saw on the stocks application. You always want to make sure that that's at the first level hierarchy of your application. So you don't want to have some drill down navigation and then all of a sudden you have tabs. You want to make sure that those tabs stay right up front. So you can put actions in the action bar. And you want to make sure that the actions that are frequently used by the user, you want to make sure that they are on the action bar, and put any less frequent ones in the action overflow, like you can see here. So any context specific actions, you really want to put those in a long press and on a touch and hold on that specific content, just like we saw with the specific stock. In the stock application, you want to press and hold on it and then allow the user to perform specific actions for that. Application menu. So you can swipe down from the top of the device, and in some applications you'll see this application menu appear. This is for more application-wide actions. So some sample ones would be settings and help, that sort of thing. You can have a maximum of 5 up there. And in the next SDK release that will be coming out in the next little while, there's an application menu component that mimics the look and feel of the Cascades one, and you can use that and get the same look and feel for your applications. And the last one here is around shortcuts. So on the Q10, on physical keyboard devices, there's a host of platform-specific shortcuts. So you might be familiar with some of these. You hit T, and the content will scroll to the top. You hit B, the content will scroll to the bottom. Space scrolls it like a screen amount. And so we have this class shortcut manager in the SDK that will allow you to listen for these events and have your content react when those shortcuts are pressed. So this is another really important one. Users will come to expect these things to happen in your application, so it's a good idea to really make sure to give them that experience. And progress feedback. So if your application has to load something from a server, or parse something, or do something that's intensive, or has to go check something on a network, make sure to tell the user that something is going on. Don't just leave the screen blank or leave a blank part of the screen. They'll just not know what's happened, think the app has crashed, especially if the UI kind of freezes a bit while things are happening. So make sure to give them some progress. So we've got 2 different progress components: activity indicator, which is just a spinner. So if you don't know the actual progress, then you can just throw that up. And then there's the progress bar, which allows you to show specific progress. Gestures and flow. So make use of that back and peak gesture. These aren't built in directly into the SDK. The back button on the action bar will dispatch out events for when you're dragging it, and it's kind of up to you to move your content as it should, just like in the application. So the stocks application has actually done the work to kind of make that all happen. And make sure you don't put any kind of weird back buttons on your screen inside your content. Make sure you use the back button in the action bar to return to the next screen, and make sure that you're able to peek back when you have some sort of drill down navigation. So here's what the checklist for user experience on the website looks like. And we just kind of ran through them quickly. So build for form factor, focus on content, gestures and flow, application navigation, and progress feedback. And AIR has all of those. So it should be fairly straightforward to kind of check this part off in your application. And so what we've done is we've actually created a new app framework that we just posted on GitHub literally like 15 minutes ago. And it mimics the Cascades app framework. So it will help you get up and running with all the navigation aspects of it really, really fast. It integrates peek and back gestures for you, so you don't have to worry about that. We've got samples for tabbed applications and drill down navigation. And we're going to integrate the application menu once it actually gets released in an SDK. And so all the interaction for swiping down and moving your content and all that kind of stuff will be taken care of for you. And so this is really, really good because it helps you focus on developing the content, the middle part of your screen, your part, instead of worrying about all these different things that you have to do in managing views and all that kind of stuff. So here it is on GitHub. It's already in one of the sample for AIR repository under app framework. And inside of there's the framework itself, the source, so that's all open source as well. And then there's a series of 5 samples, which we can go through, and I'll show you some of them in a second here. So I'll show you right now, actually. And so if we can go to the laptop, please. And okay, so we've got, let's just take a look at the samples here. So here we have all the source for the framework, and then we have this sample section. And in the sample section, there's 4 different ones here. So show you how to create a context menu on a list item. This guy. How to do multi-select with using a list, navigation drill down sample, and then a tabbed pane sample. So I'm just going to show you kind of what the code looks like a little bit here, just to give you an idea of how quickly you can get some of this stuff up and running. So let's look at this tabbed pane sample here. So here's my... Can you read that? Should I increase the font size a bit? Ready? Yes, please. Okay. That's better? Cool. Okay. So we have this new application class that you want your main project, your document class to extend. And this really just helps us set up a few of the hierarchy things that we need to do kind of underneath the covers. And so the one thing that you'll just want to do when everything gets set up, I just put everything on added override here. So I create my tabbed pane class, which is the class that you use to create a tab navigation. I've created a bunch of different tabs here. So these are all the sections in my application. And then on the application class is this scene property, which we just set to our tabbed pane. And that's basically it. Inside of here, we have these are what the different sections look like. So each tab extends a page. And there's just some really simple stuff going on here. I've created a couple actions. We have an image that's going to show up there. When actions are selected, we're going to perform different things, actions on our image here, and then just some layout stuff. So if we run this, can we go to the phone, please? So here's our tabbed pane application, and so I can click on the various tabs and see the various sections. I also have my actions here that I've set up, so I can click rotate, and it rotates. Oh, that's not supposed to happen, but we've got two images on the screen, but one's rotated, and I can see more action. So I've got my full drag and peak here. You can see as I drag it, it dims on the right-hand side as well. I can open it back up again. I can select tab 5, and it goes to tab 5. There's nothing actually there. There's no content. But anyways, super simple, not a ton of code to get up and running, to have some tab navigation and get everything sorted out for you. So can we go back to the laptop? So the next one I'll show real quick is the drill down navigation one. So the drill down navigation, you want to use a navigation pane. And so this allows you to slide in content over top of the current view. And so all I've done is instantiated a new navigation pane. I pushed a page on it. It's called the continent page. And this is just a really simple application that drills down from continent to countries to capital cities. And then I set the scene. So the continent page is just a really simple page. I created this list page example the class that just has a list in it and a title bar, just to kind of make things a little bit easier. And then when you click on a list, it pushes in a new page. So when we go from the continent page and you click on an item, you go to the country page, then it just creates a new country page and pushes the page onto the stack and shows it. So if we go back to the phone, I can show. And we have our list of continents. And click on North America, and you can see that everything kind of peaks and flows as well. And then, so the back button label down there that says continent, that kind of happens automatically for you. It's the previous title, the page of the previous title. And so if I go to Canada, I'll say the capital of Canada is Ottawa. It's actually where I'm from, and it says North America down there. So you can see how easy it is to kind of get up and running really, really quickly, and you don't have to worry about any of your navigation. Okay, so if we can go back to the slides. Anybody have any questions about that at all? Feel free if you have questions or want to interrupt me, just yell. Okay, so hopefully that really, really helps get things up and running fast for you. Probably hopefully takes a lot of the work from building your applications. So the next section is service integration. Yeah. So the question was the framework. Is it done with the QNX libraries or with standard AIR stuff? Well, so it integrates with the current QNX SDK. So it's part of that whole framework. So it is dependent on that. It's not just standard AIR stuff. Yeah, because all the components that it uses like the action bar and the title bar and everything are all in the SDK. So the available services that we have, here's a listing of them. So we've got payment service APIs, we've got push service APIs, locate service. So there's a few different classes that kind of qualify for this. So geolocation class, which is just a standard AIR class, gets you your current position and your lat long. And then I created a geocoding A&E, which is up on GitHub. And this allows you to do reverse geocoding. So you can enter in an address, and it will return you the lat long and a bunch of different other information. And then, or you can enter in a lat long, and it will return you the address that's closest to that as well. And then we have the invocation framework. There's lots of different things that you can do with this. So the invoke manager class basically is where all the APIs for the invocation framework live. So you can invoke different cards or applications. You can also share your content from there. So if you have an image application or some text or something like that you want to share with other applications, you could share with email or post to Twitter. All that kind of stuff all happens through the invocation manager. You can also set up your application as another card. So if you want to make something in your application or a piece of your application available to other apps to be invoked, you can do that as well. So lots of really great stuff in there that you can do. And then we have BBM as well. So I just posted the BBM A&E to GitHub today. It has all the NDK APIs as of 10.1. There's a sample application included in there, and we've got a pre-built A&E binary so that you can just download the A&E file. You don't have to worry about getting the NDK and building it and all that business. So let's just look at. Can you go to the phone for a second? So I have my BBM sample application up here. And so you can see I just named this. The username is Z10. I've got my little avatar up there. I can add, here's a listing of the profile box items that I've added. I can add another one. So we can just add item 2. And we can make that a different icon. Click add. And so we've added it there. We can go back. I can click on my profile here. I can say that I'm busy. And then if I go to the actual BBM application and go to or it's not going to show apps. There we go. So you can see that I added the second item there. So they show up in the BBM application itself. And then if I wanted to update something here, it shows up in the app as well. Now, if I also wanted to, if my friend downloads an app, the same app, I'm just going to invite to BBM. Should show up. So I can see my Q10 device that I just added friends with. It has the same application on this phone. The user showed up and their avatar showed up in there as well. So it's fairly straightforward. If we can go to the laptop for a second. So in the communities APIs under the BlackBerry 10 section, there's this BBM area, and so there's the A&E for the A&E, so it has the ActionScript code and the native code, and it tells you how to build it all, and then there's the A&E that's pre-built for you that you can just grab and use. And then inside of the application, there's the app, and it actually uses the app framework that I was just showing you as well. So if we have a look here, it's pretty straightforward to get up and running quickly. So this goes through everything on registering your icons for profile box items, listening for registration events, so you have to register your application with the server, listening for contact updates. It basically kind of goes through and walks you through all the different things that you have to do to fully integrate. I've also got some custom cell renderers in here that you can just rip out and use in your own applications if you like. They're fairly optimized to make the list scrolling really fast. And so lots of great stuff in here that feel free to just grab and use in your own application. Okay, we'll go back to the slides. We did the big demo. So here's the list of services that we have. Just kind of going through the checklist again. And here's the list of services that we currently don't have. So don't have support for advertising service, analytics, map, NFC, and score loop. There are some things with map and NFC that you could probably do through invocation. I'm not entirely sure if that qualifies you for using it, using that service. We currently don't have these on the immediate roadmap. I think the next one that we would like to do, if we were to pick one of these, is the score loop one. It's fairly big undertaking though, so no idea when or if that will ever happen, but if there's somebody out there who would like to and contribute it up on GitHub, that would be greatly appreciated. So performance. So performance is one of the big things that you really want to watch out for, especially in AIR applications. And I'm sure everybody who's worked with AIR before knows some of the performance drawbacks that you can run into really, really quickly. It's single-threaded, so everything happens, rendering and processing of code and all that kind of stuff happens on the main thread. So there's lots of issues with that. And then just basically, CPU rasterizing. There's different ways that you can, do GPU-enabled mode and some stuff like that, but it's not guaranteed to work all the time. And even on desktop and things like that, I find that it doesn't work 100% like you think it should. So, but I am going to show you some things that you can do to make your application perform a lot better. And one of the big things is list scrolling performance. So there are just a few lines of code that you can take your list from right out of the box. A list will probably run at around 30 frames a second, 35 frames a second, assuming you have your app set to run at 60. But you can get it up to between 55 and 60 without too much headache. So how do you do that? There's this one line of code that's in orange there. So with the CSS stuff, you can inject CSS at runtime in your application. And so every class, you can actually set public properties to whatever you like through CSS. It kind of happens magically. And so our cell renderer, which is our list items, if you set opaque background on them, you will see an incredible boost. So if you have lists that are semi-transparent, I would suggest to not do that. Have them be opaque. But it's not good enough just to have an opaque background or skin, just like the default style is, you really want to actually tell the runtime that it is opaque. So if you said opaque background, it'll say, okay, it knows. I don't have to calculate what's underneath this region because it's opaque, and I'll stop here. So that's the first thing. Then mouse children equals false. So what mouse children does is it makes your list item the one thing that is interactive. So you can't actually click on any of the children inside of it. So if you have a list where you have maybe a button in each thing and you want to interact with that button, then don't do this. But in most cases, that's not the case. And you're selecting the entire item to select it, or when you're scrolling it. So if you set this mouse children equals false, it will help with performance when you make that first initial touch to select or to scroll. So that first touch down, you have to kind of do some calculations to see, hey, are we a cell renderer? Should we start scrolling? That sort of thing. So this will really help speed up that first kind of flick, or any subsequent flicks for that matter. So one line will drastically, and I'll show you the difference in how in the code in a second here. So this one, and I'm going to show you that this actually is the case in a second, but the list itself, items scroll past the bound. So all the items are masked to the bounding area, the viewport that you've given it. But as items scroll into view and out of view, they're actually probably intersecting with other items, even though you don't know it. So if you have a title bar at the top of your app and then a list right underneath it, as applications or items scroll up, it's intersecting with the title bar. And so the runtime renderer isn't smart enough to know, oh, this object is actually masked, so don't worry about it. You don't have to calculate it. So you're constantly drawing on things that don't need to be drawn. Like the title bar is constantly redrawing all the time, and it's painful. So what you do to avoid that is you set caches bitmap equals true, and caches bitmap matrix equals a new matrix on your title bar. In this case, I just have some checkbox. But if you set that on your title bar, it will draw once, and then after every other time, it will have been cached, and it won't do it, won't redraw it all the time. And you'll also see some differences when you, for things like the text inside of the title bar, won't be redrawn as well. And so I have a cool way to show that this is actually what's going on. So if we can go to the slides, or the laptop, and we go to I'm not going to actually, well, maybe we'll run it, but so out of the box, I kind of profiled this while I was making it. I was getting 30 frames a second. After I added this one line of code, I started to get 45 frames per second. And then once I added these guys, so I was caching the title bar at the top and the action bar at the bottom, I got it to about 55 frames per second consistently. So it makes a huge, huge difference. So if we go to the phone, find my performance app here. You can see that things scroll fairly smoothly, consistently, not a lot of stutter. And this is all CPU mode, it's not GPU mode or anything like that. So, I don't know what it is. It's like 4 lines of code, 6 lines of code. And we've gone from 30 frames per second to 55 frames per second, and that's a massive difference. So I really encourage you, if the only thing that you do is this, this inject CSS, this is the one thing that you really want to do. Now, So let's go back to the slides. So one of the cool things that, we got announced, and it kind of ruins my surprise, but yesterday we announced we have the 3.5 runtime that's coming out, and I've heard that there's some, why don't we have the higher version? Well, 3.6 and 3.7 don't actually add any new features to the actual runtime. It's all some security fixes and some tooling updates for other platforms, so there's no need to that. And we currently don't have 3.8 has not been released yet. It's only in lab, so that's the reason why we're on 3.5. So profiling with Adobe Scout is really, really cool, and it shows you a lot of stuff that you probably never would have guessed is happening in your application. So to get it up and running, there's lots of tutorials online about how to get it up and running with Flash Builder and FDT and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go too much into that side of it, but to get it running specifically on our platform, what you need to do is add this telemetry.cfg file, bundle it into the root of your application, and when it launches on the device and then you have it connected through USB, it will automatically connect to Scout on your computer. So if we just have a look here. So telemetry address, so this is the address of your computer, the IP address. So most likely you're doing all this over USB, and if you've left it as the default when you turn development mode on, your device is 169.254.0.1, and a good trick is that your computer, which this is referencing, the last number is always one digit up. So because it's one, the device is 1, your computer's 2. And then you want to leave that port the same. And then you have 4 options here. You have sampler-enabled CPU capture, display object capture, and then stage 3D capture. I just have this as false because I'm not doing any stage 3D stuff. I'm just doing display object capture stuff. So let's look at what this looks like. So we go back to the laptop. Has anybody used Scout before? Any other platform? No? Oh, it's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to use this actual. Well, first, yeah, let's just connect first. So you can see here I've got my telemetry CFG file set up here. It gets bundled into my application. And when I run it, Scout is open. Device. So as it compiles and deploys over there. Hang on. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so it's deployed. It's on my device. If I open Scout, oh man, this UI is terrible. We can see my app here. And so there's lots of awesome stuff going on here. So we see Frame time, we see CPU usage. This resolution isn't the best to see this stuff with, but I thought you could kind of drag these things around a little bit. You can see memory. You can see all kinds of good stuff over here. I don't know a ton about. I'm not a scout master by any means, but there's lots of good stuff. So once if we watch, when I scroll the list, where are you? There we go. So you can see I can kind of tab through each frame to see what's going on. So you can see up here, we have the title bar, which is this area. That this inner rectangle is the label. There's the item. We've got the scroll bar. We've got the entire list here. And then the action bar is down here. So as we go through the various frames, you can see as things come in, as it scrolls, these orange things are all the different cells. Those are cache surfaces, and you can see how they're intersecting with the title bar and the action bar as they come in and out. But you saw how the difference between this frame and that frame, how the text and the title bar kind of went away. It's no longer being drawn because it's already cached, so it doesn't get updated anymore. If I was to take out those cached lines, the caches bitmap stuff, you would see this happen all the time. So this does some really other great stuff. You can, on each frame, you can kind of see what all the different functions that are getting called, like the call stack, and how long things are taking in there. So you can, come into here and see the complete call stack of everything that goes on and what the time is for it all, and kind of optimize how things work. You can also see, I don't know if we're going to be able to see it, but you can see here mouse events. So these are all the different like mouse events that come in. So you can see I had like a down and a couple moves on this frame. Same with down here. We've got timers, so set intervals and timers and that sort of thing get fired down here. So lots and lots of really cool stuff. And so if I actually saved, actually this is from when I started building the application. So this is out of the box, no modifications that we saw. And if we look at the display list rendering on here, you can see how the top text, like the text in the title bar is always being drawn all the time, and even the title bar and everything. So you can start to see how quickly like that will start to affect performance. And then if we go to, so we already saw the kind of, here's the cached version. I don't think, so this is caching of the cells. And so even this, I'm pretty sure this is the caching of the cells one. Oh no. So that's caching of the title bar. This is the CSS injection stuff. So you can see the title bar still renders that text and everything, but if you can't really see it on here. It kind of sucks the way that this is laid out on this resolution. You'll see that the rendering kind of goes through less items and takes less time because of how you interact, especially on that first mouse down. You can see it's a lot faster. And okay, let's go. Actually, just stay here. So one of the other things that you can do as well, I hope this is going to work. So there's actually an ActionScript profiler in Flash Builder and FTT. Does anybody use the profiler at all? No, nobody? Or one person anyways, John. So you can do it in Flash Builder on the desktop. No problem. It works. But sometimes that doesn't really help you because you want to see things run completely different on the device. It's a different runtime, so some internal things may affect that as well. But Flash Builder doesn't allow you to do it over USB on the device for some reason. I don't know. However, FTT does. So one of the cool things you can do, there's this mm.cfg file that you can include with your application. And to do it with FTT, you just copy this line of code. Here's your IP address like it was before. This sample is up on GitHub as well, under profiling, under the samples for AIR. So you can just grab it from there. But I'm going to just add this really quick to my project. I'm going to remove this, add. Hit OK. And so I can come up here and click Profile, List Performance. I haven't actually tested it with this app, so I hope it works. So once it's built, the profiler starts, and it is running. The one thing that you will know is that the profile, like your application, will run a lot slower when you're profiling your app. So it is really just good for, kind of seeing where some of the hotspots are. You can kind of see, if you have any memory leaks, so you can quickly tell, hey, I shouldn't have any more of these objects on the screen at this time. You can force the garbage collector to run from the profilers as well. So you can see here all of the objects that I have that are living, the instances that for the lifetime of the application that have been there, or sorry, this is the current instances. The cumulative instances are all of the instances for the lifetime of the application. So you can kind of go through here and do different things. So you can click on your running process and you can create a memory snapshot. So if you have a memory leak, you can create one memory snapshot, and then I can scroll the list. Things are running really slowly. This may not work, but anyways, you can create one memory snapshot, do whatever where you think you have your memory leak, create another one, or force the garbage collector to run once you've done your action. Then create another memory snapshot and compare the two. And then so you can really see, oh, this is the thing that's sticking around, and here's why. It'll show you the reference to the object that's keeping it around, and then you can kind of help clean things up. So if you haven't checked this out, I would recommend that you do that as well. Okay, let's go back to the slides. So we did our ActionScript profiling demo with FTT. Yeah, I already mentioned that. So we've got Scout support, telemetry support, Stage 3D APIs. Test your content, please. When the new release comes out, please test your content and make sure it works. If you have issues, report any bugs quickly. We will, get on them as fast as we possibly can. If you have Stage 3D content and you want to send it to us now to test, feel free to come up. I'll give you my email address. Send us your bar files. We'll happily take your content and test with it. We don't have a ton of Stage 3D content on hand to go through and find all the various bugs. So we really need your help to kind of help with that. And so the one thing, I can't actually show this yet, because it could not get the demo to work on my device. But we have been working on stage 3D versions of all the components. And so we have that running. I don't know what's going to happen with them. There is the biggest issue that we have right now is text. And text is everywhere, and so it makes things really, really complicated. Because our text controls are actually quite complicated because of all the localization support that we have. So we do right to left and left to right text, and we have custom text selection. So we don't actually just use a simple text field. If we did that, I think it would be a little bit easier, but the renderer that we use is a lot more complicated than that. So we actually use the flash.text.engine or whatever it is, the FTE controls. So we're trying to figure out, we've got some stuff working, but it does definitely contribute to some performance issues. So what we're hoping to do is get this and put it on GitHub. We probably won't release this as a kind of SDK official thing. But we'd like to put it on GitHub for everybody to kind of take and try and hopefully contribute fixes and changes to make things better, to make them better. So look for that to come. We'll be posting on that in the next little while, hopefully. So that's everything I was going to show. If you're building apps, new apps or even old apps, I would suggest take a look at that app framework stuff. That would really help out a lot with things. If you find bugs, please post them an issue on GitHub, and we'll fix it. Or better yet, if you fix it, and just submit a merge request, and we'll pull it in. So yeah, I mean, we have I don't know, 10 minutes or something, like 5 minutes, for any questions if anybody has any. Yeah. Oh, hang on, we're gonna get the mic for the recording.
Yeah. When is 3.5 going to be available?
So it'll be available in the next release, OS release.
So not in this one, not in
10.1. It'll be in 10.2.
Okay. And so when 3.5 is available, we will be able to use Starling.
Sorry, when what is available?
3.5.
Yeah.
We will be able to use Starling?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you'll be able to use Starling, no problem. All of the controls that we built on top of Starling.
Oh, okay.
So we use that as our kind of base. So yeah, it's running. Yeah, I've seen it working. I wish I had a demo. If anybody has a bar file they want to email me really quick, I'll put it on there. But
what about integration using this framework with the notification hub, with the hub?
So we don't have any. There currently aren't any API, like public APIs for integration into the hub. We have notifications that you can post into the notifications in the hub, but
like push notifications.
So you can do push notifications, but you can also just do regular notifications. Okay. So let's say you're a Twitter application, and there's a new post that comes or new tweet that comes in or something like that. You could push it into the notifications tab in the hub, and then have it. When you say open, it would open your application to the specific area.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in the background. Well, it's for the recording, or I'll also have to repeat it. So
for the what he said about Starling.
Yeah.
If I have an app currently using Starling, will it run on BlackBerry now if it's not requiring actual cascade controls?
Yeah, no, so you'll need to wait till the current runtime on 10.1 and down is 3.1. So there's no stage 3D support. So you'll have to wait till 10.2 comes out with the updated runtime, and then you don't have to use any of our stuff to put your app on the device.
Okay.
So once we get the AIR 3.5 runtime, you can put your app up there and not use any of our stuff, and it will work. Yeah.
Will there be a beta release for the for 10.2 with 3.5 in it so that we can start testing on devices?
Exactly, yeah, there will be. Just like we've done previously for all the other releases.
Will that be fairly soon? Or
I don't know the exact date. I know it's like in weeks, not months.
Not months.
So
okay.
So yeah,
all
so
right.
it will be coming. It will be coming soon for sure.
All right, thanks.
I think we're just going to go from this side to that side just so that the mic guy has to run.
So you're saying that 3.7, 3.8, they don't really have marquee features that we're missing, but we're already pretty far behind the current state of AIR, and it's moving pretty quick. Can we expect about that amount of delay for each major release of AIR going forward?
We honestly really don't know. Okay. I can't give any sort of timelines. I mean, we do, to give a little bit of insight of how it works, we do all the porting of the runtime ourselves. Adobe's not involved, and we actually have to get the code drops from them as well in order to do it. And it depends on a lot of different things. When we get code, what lines up for releases, like all that kind of stuff, all gets factored in. So it's not a, when the Adobe one comes out, it takes a month to do. So, and depending on what the new features are, depends on like what the change is, what the delta is, depends on how long it takes us to do any porting or whatever we have to do. So
okay.
It's variable, it's up in the air, and no idea.
So then well then maybe can you tell me, because obviously the fantasy scenario is day and date, right? That's not going to happen. But how comfortable is the team with that level, that differentiation? Is that something that they're okay with going forward, or obviously you always want to do better, but just like how restless are you to be behind?
Well, so for sure to get the Stage 3D stuff, we were definitely really restless. Now that we have that, and we've kind of what we've until last week when 3.8 came out, we felt like this is a good version for us to be on. There's no new real features that are out there. Except for some minor security stuff and tooling things. So we felt good to get up to this version. At the very least, obviously we would love to be, we would love for Adobe to just send us a fully working version when they do the other stuff, but we're kind of not on the same cycle as them. So
has there been any discussion of captive runtime?
We have discussed it a lot. The issue with captive runtime is that there's a pretty good, the runtime itself is so integrated into the OS. There's so many hooks that are dependent that there's a good chance that we would break applications if we did that, like from release to release. And so we just don't want to open that can of worms. So. Microphone.
You said that there was no timeline for a score loop and other features that are not present right now, but I mean, can you give us an estimate, like 6 months, 1 year, maybe 2 months?
So I can't give. I don't know. They're currently not on the roadmap. Basically, all I can say.
So that's not going to happen anytime soon if they're not on the roadmap.
Yeah, so they're currently not on the roadmap. So I wouldn't expect it to happen anytime soon, but you never know. We've got some other features that we're working on for 10.2. We've got some bug fixes that we have. We've got some accessibility support that we're going to be adding for 10.2 as well as the application menu stuff. But what we really want to do is for all the new services and stuff, we want to put them on GitHub so they're not tied to any release. So we can just get them out as soon as we can. But I have a score loop one that's kind of started. It kind of just registers with the back end. And I've toyed with just pushing that up there incomplete to hopefully maybe somebody will pick it up and help with it. So yeah, that's where we are. Yeah. Okay. You're the man.
All right. That better be good then, I guess. Not to further harp on the "hey, you're outdated" talk, but if I'm compiling for cross-platform, I'm going to target the latest SDK most of the time, just to stay up to date. Why not? Will I have to basically keep a separate project or at least recompile on a lower SDK to get it to run because it's not a captive runtime?
Yeah, so if you're not using any, like, let's say you're not using any new features in 3.8 or whatever, and you want to put it on ours, so you will have to, so you can, I mean, if you're not using any features and all you're targeting is like 3.5, then there's, like, you can still use that SDK, but compile and target a lower version. So there would be no reason why you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, for at least just like the app XML or whatever, and right now it says targeting 3.7.
Yeah.
Will that run, or will I have to actually manually?
You have to make it 3.5, and you'll have to make sure the Swift version is a line up and whatever the Swift version is for that. So I don't think you need separate projects necessarily.
Because if I've updated my compiler in my SDK, and I'm using 4.7 as a Flash builder.
So what you have to do, and it's really annoying that Flash Builder does this, but there's like a properties file that you can edit, and then you can use a different SDK, and that's unfortunately what you have to do. Okay, so we don't have any more time for questions, but as I'm packing up, feel free to come up and ask me questions. And I'll be at the Jam Space 2 after this if you want to come out, and then I have a product feedback session at 6 o'clock in Crystal C, I think it is. So come to that, and I have a special guest who used to work at Adobe. He used to work on AIR, so you can yell at him too.